Hey everyone.
Hey everyone, it's the Anomaly Podcast. This is episode 4 of the podcast proper.
Tuesday, July 9th,
Tuesday,
2019.
July 19th, 2019. Been in the podcast studio for 10 days now. We're running out of food. We've already run out of fresh water. So please send us money,
Comic books,
and Nintendo games to the following address.
1600
Pennsylvania Avenue.
I don't know, what should we start talking? Well, we watched 2 movies. First of all, we watched, 2 things. We watched The Frog.
We watched, frogs. Not the frogs, just frogs.
Just frogs.
They couldn't afford
they couldn't
an article.
Yeah. And we watched an episode of Super Friends after that.
Because that's what we do here.
Yeah. This is the Super Friends cast.
Yeah. So, well, it is. A lot of them have been coming from the Lost episode Super Friends set, so we have kind of unofficially called it the Lost episodes. The Next Generation is like maybe when the title gets translated for foreign markets, right. when they subtitle all of this with no video.
But that's how it's translated into French.
Yeah. And so we have a lot of errata from last episode 3. For those who don't like to listen to the actual podcast and just like to listen to the parts where we explain what we got wrong on the previous podcast, you're probably kind of smart. You know, you're saving like half the time. We're giving you Cliff's notes to our own show.
Or reverse Cliff Notes.
Reverse Cliff Notes, yeah. So you can be smarter than the teacher. Anyway, so last episode we watched 2 movies and a Super Friends episode. No. Last time was the 3
Dottie
cartoon.
Gets Spanked.
Oh, yeah, it was the Todd Haynes. So we watched Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story, Dottie Gets Spanked, and an episode of Super Friends.
Yep, that's what we want. So, here are things that we got wrong or we just wanted to quickly follow up on. So, first, number 1, this is the most embarrassing. Adam Arkin. I talked about how Adam Arkin was Alan Arkin's younger brother, etc., etc. No, Adam Arkin is Alan Arkin's son, which explains why he looks so much younger.
Oh, I thought you were just trying to flatter Alan Arkin.
That's true, Alan Arkin
to get him onto
younger.
The show.
Yeah, well, Alan Arkin's, he's a great...
Is he alive?
I believe he's alive. I saw him on something recently. Yeah, they're both alive at the same time. They could do a Charlie Sheen, Martin Sheen thing, both show up in the same movie. And
what if it was like a Back to the Future... Or like that Futurama episode that was kind of like Back to the Future, and
with the dog?
He's actually his dad and his younger brother.
Whoa, I don't remember that one. And I don't want to talk about the one with the dog, so, even though I just raised it. Very sad. Okay, I talked about Adam Arkin's career, which I knew nothing about. He was in Chicago. Okay, I did. He was in Chicago Hope, 93 to 2000, with Mandy Patinkin. But he worked for many years before Dottie Gets Spanked, including an episode of Happy Days and Captain Kangaroo. But he was also, we talked about Northern Exposure, and he played Adam for 6 episodes on Northern Exposure.
But it was still all leading up to Dottie Gets Spanked as the apex.
It's all been downhill.
Yeah.
It's all been downhill since then. Todd Haynes, let's see. Poison was in 91, but Safe was until 95. And Dottie Gets Spanked was 83, right in the middle.
93.
93, thank you. According to Wikipedia, Richard Carpenter was able to stop distribution of the movie in 1990 because of the unlicensed use of the Carpenter song. So it wasn't about the story itself, it was about the unlicensed music.
Right, that makes perfect sense.
Let's see. The movie Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story, came out in 87.
Well, I think the reason he didn't like the movie was because of the content, for sure.
Yeah, but he found another way. He couldn't go after it because of that. Let's see. All right, Super Friends. The Legion of Doom hung out in the Hall of Doom in the Slaughter Swamp. We weren't sure last time what it was called.
The Slaughter Swamp. I did not. I don't think I ever knew that, even when I was watching a lot of Super Friends.
Yeah, this was just by doing a little bit of research. Yeah, and I don't know if do they mention that? Oh, by the way, so the guy that one of the people that does Meanwhile in the Hall of Justice one, I didn't do that enough. Is Ted Knight?
Oh wait.
Yeah, Ted Baxter from the Mary Tyler Moore show.
Yeah, and like Ted something or other from the Ted Knight Show.
Yeah.
Which we still need to watch that Lost episode of.
Yeah, aren't they all?
They're kind of, yeah. There's just one that was more lost than the other ones because he died right before it got to syndication.
Oh.
So, like, when it aired in the 80s, like, it just didn't air again for, like, 30 years.
Oh. Wait, they've aired it since?
Yeah, they aired it on one of those like retro cable stations.
Okay.
That comes with like the Time Warner package or something like that.
Okay.
So there's a couple episodes that made it onto YouTube, but the infamous lost one, I'll save it for the episode where we do it. But it's like one of the most fucked up pieces of TV ever. You have any thoughts about frogs? Well, you heard it here first.
The podmate is intrigued, but not enough to watch it.
Yeah.
Well, he saw the last 10 minutes, right?
He did, yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, and that was the best parts, and that's all he feels about it. So.
Yeah.
Back to the
Yeah, but being called. Oh, sorry.
They were like, yeah, it was more of an existential menace.
If they were actually menacing, it'd be called the frogs. But these were just frogs that happened to be. Okay.
Yeah,
wait.
They got top billing because they had a better agent than Ray Milland had at that point in time. But and anyway, so now that we've got your appetite whet for this masterpiece of the world cinema, we got to get back to the errata.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. See, Legion of Doom, Hunger. Okay, I've just got to say the whole Green Lantern oath because I didn't get it quite right last time. So there were different versions. Of the Hal Jordan version is in brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light, and so on.
And if you give Ron $10, he'll record that onto your answering machine.
And we do have a Twitter account. It's at The Real Anomaly. And maybe we can post a link to. There's a YouTube video of Ryan Reynolds. Found the Ryan Reynolds version in which he says the Green Lantern oath. Those exact. Okay, let's see. Oh, I already got it. Incarnations of the Super Friends. They were
Does that includes the Superpowers episode? It does. Yeah, I can see it on the computer.
The Superpowers team, Galactic Guardians, was 84 to 85. So there were, I think, 13 seasons, 9 series.
Yeah,
between them.
The Superpowers one was the one that had the Jack Kirby spin-off comic book.
I got Black Vulcan's name wrong. I'm sorry. I said Black Lightning. Dan, you said something. The Bat spaceship. You said 10. You were guessing $10 million or wondering about that. So I looked it up.
Tens of millions, but
tens of millions.
It's 125 million.
Yeah, the Space Shuttle Endeavour cost $1.8 billion in 1987, which is about $4 billion in 2019 dollars. SpaceX Dragon plus the delivery Falcon vehicle costs a little under $1 billion. So they probably paid a little bit more than that for a one-use ship.
Instead of calling Superman.
Yeah. Superman, who doesn't even charge, he charges scale, that would have been sufficient, but no.
Yeah.
Let's see. Batman and Robin. It had a budget of, according to IMDb, $125 million.
So the cost of a Bat spaceship.
Yeah.
That's too fishy to actually just be a coincidence.
Yeah. The gross for the opening weekend was $48 million. I'm sorry, it grossed $42 million on that weekend. Cumulative worldwide gross of $238 million. So it doubled
its money. Yeah, that's pretty good.
So for a sucky Batman movie, it still did pretty good.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the best. Batman Returns. The mayor's played by Michael Murphy. Christopher Walken plays Max Schreck, the evil millionaire.
Oh, okay.
Northern Exposure. Okay, I talked about how Northern Exposure filled the gap for Twin Peaks. That was just for me, because Twin Peaks episode 1 ran from April 1990 to May 1990, and then the first episode of Exposure, which was a 8-episode late season replacement, ran from July to August of 1990. But I also didn't watch Twin Peaks as it was running. A friend of mine showed me on videotape, and we watched them all at once. So then I started my second year of college and watched the second season. So when I was describing all of us going to the common room and watching it, that was the second season. And then Northern Exposure came on right after that, and then it went into a regular. And then Adam Arkin shows up, Alan Arkin's sister. Deputy Hawk in Twin Peaks was played by Michael Horst, and he actually was in TV and film for decades. With the first record from him in IMDb was in '91, and he was in The Legend of the Lone Ranger. And I will let you guess what character he played.
Oh God, Tonto, right?
Yeah. So yeah, his first role was Tonto. So okay, Morin had her mouth
He
rocks.
kind of plays a Tonto on Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, he's not like.
Well, he gives the wise sayings and all that.
Yeah, and he's like second to the guy who kind of looks like the generic '90s pretty boy guy, the main Harry Truman.
Yeah, Harry Truman. But I'll say he's a wise man. I think he plays a more substantive role. He has agency where Tonto does not.
That's true.
So Peter Matarazzo, still not sure how to pronounce the name. According to pronounce.com, it's pronounced Matarazzo or Matarazzo, which I don't believe. It also has an Italian Matarazzo, which is probably closer to how she says it. I don't know. I'm going to go by Matarazzo.
Isn't it kind of disrespectful to Tonto that the Lone Ranger calls himself the Lone Ranger because he's always got a sidekick?
Yeah, he's not
never actually lone.
As if, yeah, but he's lone. It's like there's not a real person with him.
Right, like he's just like, his whole name is about not giving Tonto credit. It's like if the Green Hornet was like, I call myself the only Hornet. I sign all the checks.
It's not even the Lone Ranger and Tonto. It's just the Lone Ranger.
Right.
Oh, so by the way, Heather Matarazzo, turns out she has an active Twitter feed, which is great. And I also found a blog post from her from several years ago called "What the Fuck is Fuckable?" And it has to do with a bad experience with a cat being cast for a movie. It's an interesting read. Maybe I'll include a link to that too on the Twitter. I don't know. Did you even know we have a Twitter account?
You know, it's like, I did not, but you know what is like imminently fuckable is this podcast. We are on fire. You all know it. I didn't need to say it, but sometimes you just gotta like put it out in the open. Anyway, back to the errata.
Boss Baby. I talked about Boss Baby and Boss Baby 2, but actually the sequel, Boss Baby 2, the movie, doesn't come out until 2021, scheduled.
So there's more Boss Baby.
But there is a follow-up to, there's a
Is that like a groundhog? Like if the movie comes out, we know we're going to have 4 more years of Donald Trump.
So we trying to find a way for it not to come out, to end it before there's a look?
That could be, if we ever get like a spin-off movie like the Angry Video Game Nerd got, we could make it like about our quest to stop the second Boss Baby movie from ever being released. Make like a lot of Raiders of the Lost Ark jokes at the end.
And then sort of a James Bond, like 5 seconds before the nuclear bomb blows up, we stopped Boss Baby 2 just in time. It's about to be distributed to all the theaters.
Throw the one VHS tape that they've archived this entire professional movie on, and we throw it into the fucking Ark of the Covenant, and then we're like, bye, bitch, and yeah, it's give us money to do that. If you're listening,
we will stop Boss Baby 2. But we haven't been able to stop the Netflix series Boss Baby Back in Business. So there is a sequel to Boss Baby. It's just a TV show right now. Okay, we talked about adult babies, and just a little follow-up. So there is actually a little bit of research on it, a little bit of a study. So I'm not going to go through all that. All I can, because that stuff's online. It's much more there's much more scholarly stuff than I can provide. I'll just screw it up. But it is. It's also called paraphilic infantilis, or infantilis. They are called adult babies. That is a proper term. And, quote, they're interested in role-playing aspect, and there are diaper lovers, or DLs, which are mostly interested in wearing diapers. And then it's called the adult baby / diaper lover ABDL community.
So, like, in the role-playing capacity, is there one that is officially like the Boss Baby? Or is one partner the Boss Baby and the other partner is Boss Baby 2, still in business?
No, actually, I just realized Boss Baby is about a baby who acts like an adult. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. Did you see Boss Baby?
I saw previews and I heard like the audio clip they played on the Jim and Marjorie show on NPR.
Yeah, somebody in this room actually watched the whole movie, but it's actually pretty good. It's funny.
It's funny.
It's funny. Yeah. But we do have different.
I mean, I don't know. I could watch it. My favorite movie, like new movie of the last like 5 years, was 2 Godzillas ago because I saw it in 3D.
And I watch Clerks at least once a year, so I don't know what that's.
I don't know. I've probably seen Clerks like an ungodly number of times.
Oh, okay. So we have that.
I think I have the Clerks X set. The
cartoon?
No, I have the cartoon, but I have the like 3-disc box set with the alternate cut of the movie with the different ending. Did you know about that? It's got like a bunch of...
Oh, Dante gets shot or something?
Yeah, and it's got...
spoiler alert.
It's got the original edit of it that was sent to the film festival. I think the music's still in it because the music wasn't licensed. Mm-hmm. The music cost something like 10 times more than the film did.
Wow. Oh, can I borrow that?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm watching that tonight. Or at least that last...
Hopefully I still got it around here. I'm pretty sure.
Or, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm in no rush.
It should be on the shelf. But the animated one, did you ever see see the animated one?
Yeah, I saw the whole thing.
Yeah, it was like, I love that one episode where they're trapped in the freezer and it's a clip show, but they've only had one episode. That was my favorite one. Anyway, back to the errata.
All right, furries. So there is also some scholarly research on that. I talked about that. And you're actually right. I don't know. I don't know if this was, you knew about this or you were just guessing, but let's see. According to...
I've hung out with... I hung out with a furry, a guy who was a furry. The time that I got banned from the Rochester Institute of Technology campus for hijacking a miniature remote control steamroller.
Well, I mean, that's what you do if you see a remote control steamroller.
Yeah, it had it looked like an N64 controller. The keys were in it. No regrets. And 2 days later, I went back to the fancy part of the RIT cafeteria. And I ate fucking great braised duck, and Campo did not stop me. And that was the most baller moment of my life, except for the time that I went up to a McDonald's drive-thru at 1 a.m. in a Rolls Royce. And the window didn't work, so my friend Pete had to step out, scream and it was weird because he didn't take orders. He was like, I know exactly how much food we're all gonna need. And he was right too. He was like very drunk, but he was right on that issue. And so he walks out of this like restored 1950 James Bond style Rolls Royce, and he's screaming like, 4 cheeseburgers, 2 things of fries, blah, blah. And yeah, and then we just we drove back in this Rolls Royce and ate a lot of McDonald's.
Aren't you supposed to ask, do you have any grape proponents when you're in a Rolls Royce? Oh no, that's the reverse. Somebody asks you. I think that was the proper response of the people in McDonald's, to ask you if you have any grape.
Oh yeah.
All right. So just with furries, yeah, I didn't realize. So this was for real. That it did. Well, at least some research says that it came out of it was in a science fiction convention, and it started appearing in fanzines in '83. But it does have to do with cartoons and stuff from the era. I guess that was the 70s?
Yeah,
60s, 70s?
Early 80s too. There were a lot of those kind of anthropomorphized teddy bear type cartoons. Mm-hmm. Also indie comics, there was a lot of, like, Robert Crumb even has some early versions of this kind of stuff in his early work where like it anthropomorphized but slightly sexualized forms with an emphasis on kind of like human sexualized body parts, but this texture that's more akin to a stuffed animal. I've spent far too much of my life reading comic books, hearing myself make these fine distinctions, but
I used to think that, and I was accused of that, and I really only read them for 3 years. 5 years. 5 years, middle school and high school, and then I stopped. I still have most of the comic books. And then I read Watchmen when I was in college, Watchmen, Sandman, first a few bound together, and then the individual series. Well, maybe it was all actual comics. Anyways, Tony Basil mentioned, was it Breakaway? Movie, or a short
Bruce
film?
Conner, 1965.
66.
66, okay.
That's it. Had the correction in there. Side note, Dennis Hopper was the or a lighting technician.
Oh, yeah, because he shows up in one of the alternate cuts of one of Conner's later films called Looking for Mushrooms, I think. I have the normal cut of it on a DVD somewhere. Somebody, like, Criterion has to release, like, a decent box set of all the Bruce Conner movies, because they're way too hard to get a hold of, and they're way too important for them to be this hard to get a hold of.
But you have some.
Yeah, I have bootlegs.
You mean properly licensed copies. Cool. Well, we should watch them at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I haven't seen any. I didn't even hit play on the Breakaway that I found.
Oh, yeah, I have, like, good quality ones, so they should look good on the TV.
Okay, cool. X-Men, Magneto, the group was originally called the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Eventually they dropped off the evil to Brotherhood of Mutants, and then just the Brotherhood, and the original X-Men were Cyclops, Marvel Girl, Jean Grey, Beast, Angel, and Iceman. So I think we got 4 out of 5. Yeah. Okay, Wings of Desire. You did not believe me, or you were did not believe, you were flabbergasted that an American remake existed. It's called City of Angels, and it's
it's got Nicolas Cage.
It's got Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan.
How do I not?
And it doesn't have Peter Falk. It has in the Peter Falk role.
How do I not already own this movie? Like, that sounds Wim Wenders with Nicolas Cage, and like Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan get romantic, right?
Yeah. Nicolas Cage is
this needs. Okay, this is the next episode of the podcast.
Wait, this means I have to sit through that movie for the second time in my life.
Oh, you've already sat through. Okay, maybe that'll be a Liz episode.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to watch it again.
Or like maybe Liz and I could start a Cage cast. Like,
Two-man
when we
tour.
decide to cash in, because
We got to make our millions off of this.
he's hot, yeah.
But the character that's Peter Falk in Wings of Desire is played by Dennis Franz. At the time, NYPD Blue was a big deal. So, and just let's see, miscellaneous stuff. Oh, what?
Wasn't he kind of infamous for like showing his ass on NYPD Blue?
Yep, I think it was
Dennis
like shower
Franz.
scenes, or they would get dressed in the locker room, or I don't know. I watched one episode. I was not a fan.
Well, but it was the first like human ass shown on U.S. television. Was Dennis Franz's ass?
Something like that.
They need to put it in the Smithsonian.
Is it a cast or is it an actual ass? Not him, just the ass. Okay, some other stuff. I cannot believe this either. I refer to the Kevin Smith and Andy McElfresh podcast as Eduma Correction. The podcast is called Edumacation, and then the errata is called Eduma Correction, in which I stole the idea in order to make an errata. Valley of the Dolls 2, I called it that. It's actually called Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, and this, just always a great thing to know, is it was written by Roger Ebert. Yeah. Let's see. She's the Sheriff. It wasn't just short-lived. It lasted a full 2 seasons from September 87 to April 89, and I watched it when it first ran, and I watched most episodes. Lawrence of Arabia. I gave you this, I know this thing about the 68 millimeter print. It's 65 millimeters. I was off by 3.
Okay.
And then, I'm quoting from Wikipedia. Super Panavision technology, you understand this where I don't, was used to shoot the film, meaning that spherical lenses were used instead of anamorphic ones, and the image was exposed on a 65 millimeter negative, then printed onto a 70 millimeter positive to leave room for the soundtrack. So you probably understand that much better than I do.
Yeah, so that's why, like, have you ever heard the phrase Academy ratio?
Yes,
for,
I've heard it many
movies
times.
Where it's like almost in full screen, like 4:3 square.
Yeah,
but there's a slight strip on the side. So like Charlie Chaplin's The Gold Rush, you can tell if you're seeing an older or newer print of it by whether there's a strip on the side for the soundtrack. But basically, they would print the movie onto the film, and there would just be like magnetic tape, kind of like you'd put through a reel-to-reel, that would be literally just on the side of the film.
Oh, okay.
So the 5 millimeters between the 65 millimeters on the film and the 65 millimeters that are picture, and the extra 5 millimeters is the tape reel running the sound.
Okay. So wait, what was special about this being 65 millimeters versus most films being filmed on 70 millimeters? Or?
So most films of that period, if they had studio backing and a budget, would be shot on 35 millimeter film.
Oh.
So the fact that it was shot on 70 millimeter or 65 millimeter, kind of like 2001, or Playtime by Jacques Tati's, the other big one. Basically you have twice the resolution. So if you're watching it on like a very, very big screen, it would have been akin to like going to an IMAX theater versus going to a regular theater now.
Wow. So Lawrence of Arabia, I had read an article about it in the New York Times when it was 40th anniversary? I can't remember, but they'd restored it. It was a big deal, and they talked about, Steven Spielberg was maybe involved or something. I forget. I read it a few years ago again. I found it online. So I read about it. I was really excited. Saw it on VHS. It was terrible. The desert doesn't fit on a small TV. But then after I graduated from high school, we went to London, and it was showing. And it was in the West End of London. I was there for just a few days. And big giant sign of Lawrence of Arabia. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this. What am I going to do in London? I'm going to go see a movie. Which started a whole series of whenever I travel somewhere, I just want to go see regular movies too, just to see what the local theater is like. And the audiences, they can be different. It was great. I went inside. I fumbled around with coins. I was a little unsure about the monetary system. And then, I don't know, it was like 1,000-seat theater. There were 5 of us in there. Best movie-going experience ever. Plus, the movie was pretty good. 1,000-seat and only 5. I got like percent of I got 20% of the movie theater to myself. 200 seats just for me. Yeah, now I could do the math. It was actually pretty simple. Yeah. I do math stuff for a living, by the way. Public Enemies, Welcome to the Terror Dome, Fear of the Black Planet, came out in 1990. Luann on King of the Hill was the niece. She was Hank and Peggy's niece, not the daughter. In more Amy Heckerling news, she also directed National Lampoon's European Vacation, so the second in the series.
Okay, it's one. It still had Chevy Chase or no?
Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, different kids, same names, same characters, but played by different actors.
Okay.
I think they changed them for every movie.
Well, like if I've learned anything watching Hollywood movies for a long time, it's that like stars are irreplaceable special snowflakes, but all children are universally replaceable across television programs, seasons of television program, movie franchises, sometimes even the same movie. Like I kind of wonder, like, are they still using the same kid? Nobody cares about kids in movies. They're too small. They don't have a phone number. They're not really people in society. On top of being fictional, and it's like we'll deal with you being fictional, but just the physical shrinkage is too much. But anyway,
I'm an old man who remembers a time when kids like me didn't have a phone number or a phone in our hand.
Oh, yeah. How young do they give them phones now? Like, is it just you're 5 years old and you get a phone?
It's like a rite of passage. I think you're born, and the doctor, they stop slapping. They just hand you the phone, and if you can hit the home button, if not, they might have to do something. So okay, let's see. I'll go through the whole thing. The lead singer of Susie and the Banshees was called Susie Sue, but her legal name is Susan Janet. Let's see. John Astin and Patty Duke's other son is Mackenzie Astin. So Sean and Mackenzie. And Murder, She Wrote, only 9 episodes were filmed in Mendocino, apparently, but the exterior shot were all from Mendocino, and they're used throughout the city. And that's it. That's it for the Namorata. So, should we get on?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, the frogs are super friends. Sorry, frogs, not the frogs.
Yeah, I guess so. We chose the movie a little differently than how we normally do. I took a picture of a bunch of movies spread out on the dining room table this morning. I posted it to Instagram because since yesterday I have an Instagram because I figured out how to trick my laptop into making, or I guess I didn't really trick the laptop tricks Instagram into thinking that Firefox is my phone.
Well, you can just go to Instagram.com.
Oh yeah, but they won't let you post if you're on the
you can only read?
Yeah, you can only read.
View. Yeah. Okay.
So you also, in the fake phone mode, you can't use apostrophes. So my Instagram style is no punctuation.
Okay. E coming style.
Yeah, kind of. And anyway, where was I going with that?
Oh, so you posted the pictures.
I posted the picture and I said, hey, all the fans of the podcast, everybody who has just done nothing but listen to Anomany with Ron and Dan in the 3 or 4 days since it dropped. And we dropped 3 or 4 days straight worth of content at once. So we all know it's because we knew you could do it.
We didn't want you to listen to one episode and then have to wait for the next one. We figured we'd give you a few to kind of
get the momentum going,
or give you a few to know whether or not to stop. But it was unanimous.
It was unanimous. Well, there were a lot of votes. Let's just say there were too many to count. Yeah. But somehow we still made a decision despite not counting the votes. Apparently, no, there was one vote, and it was for frogs.
And so we watched frogs.
So yeah, we were Your Puppets. Life in the Anthropocene is actually Mystery Science Theater 3000. And we sit in a room, we consume all the bad media.
We do people a service by watching stuff so that they don't have to.
Yeah, and we just get a cat instead of 2 robots that sit around with us.
The podcat just walked by the way. So yeah, frogs. I want the movie was an hour and a half long, and I want about an hour and 25 minutes of those back.
Yeah, it was bad like the Wicker Man remake, where there were 5 minutes of it that were...
Speaking of Nicolas Cage,
there were 5 minutes that were amazing. The 5 minutes that were amazing in the Wicker Man remake were a lot more amazing than the 5 minutes that were kind of amazing in Frogs. Both of them, it's you know, just like incoherent mayhem, carnage. But God, the rest of those movies, they're so boring. Like nothing happens. In this movie, for like the first 45 minutes, it's just them sitting in front of this house, right? Like
with all facing the same way in half the shot. They're all facing the same way.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get cuts with other camera positions.
Yeah, and you just see like these three perspectives on the one house. Like I was saying while we were watching the movie, it feels like one of those movies where they, like Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny, real movie, true story. They rent, or I think Little Shop of Horrors was filmed like that too, where they rented out the location and then decided what movie they were going to make based on that. And this movie looks like it was made for, somehow they got Ray Milland,
and Sam Elliott.
Although Sam Elliott looks like a baby, so they probably got him for cheap. Ray Milland won the Best Actor Oscar, goddammit.
But so Ray Milland and a young Sam Elliott. And it was so great to see that.
Yeah.
What was that?
Very young Sam Elliott.
Yeah. And it took a little while to realize that was really Sam Elliott. Like he starts. Sam Elliott is timeless, not immortal, but he always has been there. He always will be there. But he's always supposed to be there as this older cowboy, kind of rugged cowboy, providing wisdom and with a big giant mustache.
Right. He's like white Morgan Freeman.
With a cowboy hat.
Yeah, with a cowboy hat. But
I want to see Morgan Freeman in a cowboy hat.
That movie has to exist. There's no way there's not a Morgan Freeman movie where he's in a cowboy hat, like at least jokingly somewhere.
All right, I'm gonna.
That's a challenge for you, the listeners. If anybody knows where Morgan Freeman showed up in a cowboy hat, Ron needs to know.
And if you can tweet us, again, that's at The Real Anomaly. I need to mention that about every 10 minutes or so. Tweet us, and if you're correct, you win. You get to listen to the next episode free.
Yeah. So the frogs themselves. There's a lot of reptiles in the movie. Even some like aggressive peat moss. There's humans. There's human actors. Beyond name recognition, they're universally the worst thing about the movie. You could have cut all the people out, just kept...
Well, there's three young, white, blondish guys who are pretty much interchangeable. Well, they're not. There's two that are interchangeable, and the third one, you can tell the difference because he drinks.
Yeah. And then there's Ray Milland as, like, this old man in a wheelchair who just looks like fully shaven Colonel Sanders. He's cranky. He wants to die on this island, and he wants to take his family with him, and he has been waiting for these frogs to carry him home to sweet, sweet oblivion since seemingly before he came up with the 11 secret herbs and spices.
And spoiler alert, it ends with Ray Milland dying, with frogs jumping all over.
Yeah, it's never quite clear how, because there's like an animation at the end of the movie of like this cute little frog chewing on a human finger. The original movie poster on the back of the DVD case is this terribly like pre-photoshopped picture of a frog with a human finger sticking out of its mouth. Literally all you see in the movie, like nothing bites anything. One lady gets like leeches on her face, but...
No, then there's a snake bite and a crocodile.
There's a snake bite. Does the crocodile actually, like, do we see the crocodile bite something, or is it just sort of like...
Kind of wrestling? Was it wrestling or biting? I don't remember. But at least there's a lot more activity there.
Yeah, but the movie's called fucking Frogs, and there's like endless shots of frogs. Like every time, like the same way Ozu would use train stations between every scene. Every scene, there's at least 5, sometimes the same 5. They would recycle a lot of the shots. Just these close-up pictures of frogs, and they keep going ribbit, 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 ribbit. It's on the DVD menu too. And I think the idea is that like eventually it's supposed to be like Chinese water torture or something, right? Like the ribbit, ribbit, ribbit just repeating gets eerie.
And it's often the same shot. They recycle them.
And then like the ribbit
shots.
noise, I think they just paid an agency and looped it. But
for somebody to actually sit there going ribbit, ribbit.
And it just, it doesn't build any, it just sounds like somebody's burping over the whole movie.
All these frogs just keep showing up, and we see snakes, we see spiders, we see what looks to be a malevolent butterfly, but it never attacks. And we see a lizard pushing bottles of poison. We know it's poison because it actually says poison on the
Okay,
bottle.
that was pretty classic.
Yeah, that's one of the people is in a hothouse or for plants, and literally there's a small lizard that just
And
drops
everything in the
poison.
movie is puke green. Like, it just looks like the entire world was left in your refrigerator for way too long.
I mean, the whole film, like is almost this green, faded, lightly green sheen.
Yeah, and like it just I get it. Frogs are green.
Some lizards are green.
Some lizards are green. Peat moss is green.
Crocodiles are green. Spanish moss.
I guess it was trying to use green, kind of like how they use red in more successful horror movies.
Oh, what was M. Night Shyamalan? What's his Sixth Sense? Didn't Red play whenever there was death or he's a ghost or?
Oh yeah, and like Cries and
spoiler.
Whispers, Bergman. The scenes they fade to red instead of black.
Oh, okay.
And it's like kind of disconcerting. Although that's not really a horror movie, but it's like the horror of mortality, I guess, or something. I don't know.
Sorry,
I haven't watched that. I haven't watched that movie in a long. The only thing I remember is that it fades to red, and there's like an old lady dying. But that's every Ingmar Bergman movie.
Sometimes it's an old man dying.
That's true.
Yeah. So, oh god, this movie, 45 minutes. It was on the 45-minute mark for an hour and 30-minute movie, minus 2 minutes of credits. But, I guess there were 2 minutes of credits at the start. 45 minutes before the first death scene. We saw one dead body early on, but it took half the movie to see a struggling death scene of a live person. And then there were a little more, but we never see the frogs
Was the peat moss one the first one?
That was the first one.
So the peat moss death, yeah, they have these shots of the frogs because they're fucking cock teases, whoever made this movie. And you're like, yeah, I'm gonna see frogs eat somebody. And you're all pumped and you're primed. And then he just like falls over. They sort of casually walk over him, and then he gets covered in peat moss, and that's kind of it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and then some spiders show up.
Right.
But he's already pretty much dead
beforehand.
Yeah. After the peat moss has completely covered him up.
Yeah, like the spiders are only there to terrorize him. The thing that's actually going to kill him is
the tree. Or the moss.
Like very light.
Very light greenery.
Yeah.
He can't tear away out of it or anything like that. He's strangled.
This was a terrible, terrible movie.
Yeah. But we're not even sure if Sam Elliott lives or dies. He makes it almost all the way to the end, and then he looks like he's...
Oh yeah, like him and his wife and his 2.5 kids, they get into a car.
Who aren't really his wife or his kids.
It ends up that way. And they get into a green car with this woman and her kid, and then the kid shows this like frog, and it freeze frames like the movie's gonna end, and then it doesn't. It just keeps going. And then thankfully it's like the Ray Milland death scene with the frog, so it's kind of like, okay, all right, I waited this long.
Right.
It's the sincerely Elvis of the frogs. But no, yeah, I really thought the movie was going to end there. But it's an opening for a sequel, right? Because they still haven't gotten away from the frogs. There's still one in the car.
I mean, Sam Elliott is the Superman in this movie. He's even in the swamp himself, and he still manages to beat off any reptile and save the quote-unquote family. Because it's not his wife and it's not his kids. It's just they're the survivors.
Right.
Or are they? Wow. So the movie begins with Sam Elliott taking pictures. He's a freelance photographer, photojournalist. And he's in the swamp or in the lake next to a swamp.
And he's sort of an environmentalist or something, and I guess that's why the frogs don't not eat him when he walks by them.
Yeah, he just walks through the frog. He's Superman. Well, he's better than Superman. He's more powerful. He's Sam Elliott.
Right, everybody else has the kind of stormtrooper bullet magnetism.
Well, the frogs or the reptiles all get attracted to them.
Yeah, like in Star Wars, like if you're Han Solo, you can walk through an atomic bomb blast and you're fine. But if you're a stormtrooper, you're just fucking eating your lunch and somehow you're just gonna have like red laser dots and you're gonna fall over. Yeah, it was like that for every character except for the one played by Sam Elliott. They get near the frogs, they get near a greenhouse, they get near like dubiously useful bottles only labeled poison, right? Because usually when I keep something in the cabinet, like I'll put if it's poisonous, if it's in an unlabeled bottle, because, I got record cleaner and whatever, but I'm going to put record cleaner poisonous. I'm not just going to put poisonous. Also,
arsenic poisonous. Right. Mildly. So the environmental message. So he's taking pictures, and at first you see kind of the pristine swamp and the animals and all that, and then you see some litter, and you see one sewage stuff being poured into it, and then you see an even bigger one later on. So you start getting a feel that there's an environmental message here.
Right.
And this is 1972, so this is ahead of its time.
Right, and this was when people were protesting to get McDonald's to move from cardboard and paper packaging to foam packaging to save the rainforest. We have come a long way.
But at the time...
But yeah, at the time, like, acknowledging that there was an environment was pretty radical and progressive, because, there's not, like, much of a sense in movies of that period of the earth or resources being at all finite. Everything's sort of just about consuming your surroundings until you find self-actualization. I guess that's what most movies are still about, but anyways, not all of them end with you being killed by frogs, I guess, is the moral way to get to.
Do you think Ray Milland was happy that finally the frogs got him? Because, I've had to put up with all this. I'm just done. I've had to put up with an hour and 28 minutes of this movie. This is the character thinking that...
Oh, yeah, it's one of those horror movies where the characters are so poorly defined that you kind of think, like, even before they were dead, they were missing persons. On some deep level, like, they exist to be killed. They're like, it's the fictional narrative version of factory farming.
What do you mean?
Well, so they just set them up as targets. In this movie, they don't spend any effort setting them up as, like, particularly compelling or interesting targets. Uh-huh. They just sort of, like, show them on camera for long enough where it doesn't seem completely like a snuff film when the stakes go for him. But I don't know, like, I couldn't tell any of the male leads in this movie apart, except for one of them was old and one of them was Sam Elliott. And half the time I couldn't tell which one was Sam Elliott.
Yeah, one of them died and you said something and I told you it was that person, and then another one died. It's like, oh, actually I must have gotten them confused because that person was in that situation. Yeah,
and the weird thing is that the movie overall, like, on a macro level, is structured sort of like one of those people who only wants to eat the parts of their meal in a specific order and, like, wants to finish each one right, because, like, the first 30 minutes is the boring people stuff, and then we just get a bunch of death scenes in sequence with one narrative scene in the middle. I just never seen a horror movie that was that cleanly split between, like, the action stuff. It plays like a clip reel almost. It's basically incoherent after the first kill.
Yeah, you see kill, you see next person, you see frogs, some other animal, frogs, some other animal, you see the person, eventually, I don't know, somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes, the person gets attacked or consumed or just screams and falls, and you never quite see what's happening except the occasional lizard nearby, and then frog not even on. I just realized something. Okay, we're talking about the three men. So it's 3 young white men. Only one of them is slightly distinguishable because he drinks a lot. Mm-hmm. But the other 2 can't tell them apart, and the third one even then until he picks up a beer.
And they put them all this big plantation-style mansion with this guy dressed like Colonel Sanders in the Kentucky Fried Chicken advertisements. And I remarked to Ron as we were watching this that I secretly kind of hoped that these were the inbred grandchildren of the fictional cast of Gone with the Wind.
Scarlet and Red had 2 kids.
Right.
And they had 2 kids. And they had 2 kids. Just
with each other.
With
each other, and that's why you can't tell the 3 boys apart.
Right.
And the guy who seems like Grandpa can't actually... He can't walk because it's a disorder, because there just weren't enough genes to go around.
There's the three white guys that look the same. The two white women look the same. Blonde white women. They're also couldn't tell them apart for most of the movie. Eventually, by the end, you could tell because one wasn't the wife or the kid's kid. The two kids, you couldn't tell them apart. They were also identical, practically.
Yeah, the only
but they
people
weren't
you
identical.
could tell apart is like there were two black wait staff people in the plantation. Yeah, and it was, I guess, like being charitable to the movie's self-professed intentions. They're saying like, oh, it's like crazy Colonel Sanders is the patriarchy and the wealthy, and he wants to destroy the environment, and the rest of us are going to be lucky to get out alive unless we're Sam Elliott or the chick that Sam Elliott is banging. Yeah.
I was disappointed. I was waiting for that to happen, and it never did.
No.
It's a very chaste movie.
Yeah, it was pretty PG for a 70s creature feature.
Oh, wait. So I was just going to say about the doubles. Okay, so then there's the three African Americans. There's the older male and female servants, the butler and the maid. And then there's a younger woman who is the girlfriend of one of those indistinguishable white men.
Right.
But she and the maid are both called Mabel. They have the same name.
I didn't even catch that. That's hilarious. So I guess the moral, which we do not endorse on this show in the slightest, but apparently the moral of the 1973 movie Frogs is that all black women are actually named Mabel.
I will say the movie actually did. It wasn't out of nowhere. It's actually a big deal that there was a mixed race couple, white guy, black woman
in this movie.
No. It was no. I mean that in 1972.
Oh yeah,
that's a pretty big deal.
That's true.
Yeah. So this movie was actually, had the environmental message. It had this progressive attitude about race. And, what else? But it was except that it was overall a bad movie.
Maybe if they'd actually figured out how to make it look on film like a frog was eating someone, the left could have prevailed. But the message just isn't that convincing. The environmentalism, none of it seems very convincing when you just can't get the frogs to look vicious. They're just kind of sitting there.
And I mean, the titular characters in this film, just use the word titular. Did I use it correctly? In the title, they are the title. They are the title, and
by runtime they're like half the footage, but they never.
Yeah. Even Ray Milland, I think he dies of a heart attack and they jump all over him.
But I'm very disappointed. The frog. I did not get my gory moment with the frog.
Yeah, that's what we were waiting for.
Like, there's no money shot.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of people squirming. The actors, because they don't have a special effects budget, they have to overact the death scenes so, like, more intensely, I think, than maybe not any movie I've ever seen. Like, it's still better than Sofia Coppola in Godfather Part 3 with that, like, ungodly wail on the stairs thing, but not good. Not good. Just like...
this. So, yeah, I want that hour and a half back, except for the 5-minute Ray Milland ending scene. And the
poison
cute, and the cute cartoon, but right, and the poison.
Seeing the frog knock over the bottle marked poison was great.
Yeah. So that's about 5 minutes total of it. But so we just saved you an hour and a half. So what's the takeaway? What's our lesson from this movie?
Sometimes I go wrong buying DVDs entirely based on the sleeve. Wait. And that literally is, like, I collect Criterion stuff, I collect TV stuff. Everything else I buy only because the sleeve looks intriguingly bad.
So that is...
Or good, or just like something I wouldn't see again.
That's like going to the bookstore and all the books are in one section are marked fiction. So you want a book, you can either grab Tolstoy or you can grab 50 Shades of Grey. And that's what you get.
Yeah, there's only two kinds of book in the world.
Fiction and nonfiction. And novelizations of movies. That's a different category.
I was going to say the heavy ones and the ones you get on the internet.
So the moral, I don't know what so that was the lesson. And I don't know, what's my lesson?
Don't piss off frogs with pesticide unless you're an old man who secretly wants to get yourself and your extended family killed by wild reptiles. Also, somebody hawked not particularly healthy loogie over this entire movie. I cannot stress how green it all looks and how unhealthy that particular shade of green looks. If you can find the clip with the death scenes, maybe watch it on YouTube, but otherwise stay clear.
Yeah. Oh gosh, do you think somebody actually did a cut that consists of the death scene?
I hope so, because you could toss out the entire rest of the movie after that. That's the only part that needs to go into the space capsule that we send out our Kryptonian baby in when climate change hits the apex.
We're not going to send a human baby. We're going to send back a Kryptonian baby.
That's the actual end plan of the Trump administration, is to, and Boss Baby is like a wink about this, but they want to put Donald Trump's consciousness into an actual human baby, and this is like what they're actually spending the border money on. And they're gonna shoot it into space, but they need to find a planet where Donald Trump would get superpowers from the specific color of that planet's sun. And I don't think it's gonna work on any of it.
Well, it won't work on a red sun, right?
Yeah.
Because that, Superman is what he is because...
maybe like an orange sun. Maybe that's why he has that color.
I was thinking like a... Blue's a nice color.
A Bic lighter.
Actually, let's see, Roy G. Biv. So red, orange, yellow, red, orange, yellow. So we skipped yellow, green. We need a green star. Green or blue star. Or lower. Or higher. So.
Do you think there's like a solar system in the universe where their version of the sun is just a giant Bic lighter and like at least one of the planets, the surface resembles marshmallows?
Well, it is a big universe and it's been around for a while. If 10 million monkeys at typewriters can churn out Hamlet, then I think your Bic and Marshmallow scenario or
hey, Cartoon Network, I want to revive the Super Friends. I have your pilot. We can get some money from the Bic people. And Call me.
Batman and Robin it's Batman and Robin build a new
fly to the Marshmallow Planet after it can be a two-part two-part episode. The first part is Batman forcing Robin to sell grit on his bicycle to pay for another spaceship because it's clearly Robin's fault that they destroyed the first one going after the giant space babies. And then once Robin gets $125 million delivering grit newspapers to grateful customers across America, they go back into space and promptly crash the new jet into this partially melted marshmallow planet next to a giant Bic lighter. And I think like their version of Jupiter, like the big planet that's further out in the solar system, would have to look like a quick stop or something. It's like the garbage galaxy. What were we even... Oh, yeah, well, I guess we're on to the Super Friends portion of the episode now, which is
You sure you don't want to spend more time on Frog? I mean, there's so much to unpack there.
We can't linger on disappointment. We just have to...
we're hopeful now. Things are good.
We just got to get back on the horse.
Yeah. So, Super Friends, sorry, you were saying...
So, Super Friend, I don't know what I was saying. I was just kind of waiting for somebody to come. I never quite figured out what I was... I've never quite figured out, like, turns in socializing that well. So, sometimes I will literally just go, and I figure somebody's going to start talking, and then I'll just stop.
Oh, see, I'm used to the other person talking, and then if I want to say something, I have to interject, but I can't because I'm too polite. Or not polite, but anxious, and have this like serious social anxiety. And then I'm not sure, like right as they're finishing off, and I start saying something, and then I realize, oh no, I cut them off. I stopped. I apologize. Sorry, you were saying, and I'm like, no, I was done. Like, those are my interactions. Unless there's a lot of blank space, then I have to fill.
Yeah. See, I come at it like an elephant with diarrhea, but like an elephant with diarrhea, I can fill a room. So. Yeah, coming right at you.
I can laugh. The Super Friends. So again, we're in the Lost episode, and I specifically requested an episode with the Wonder Twins.
Yeah, Zan and Jaina and their monkey, Gleek.
So we picked, what was the title? Oh, Two Gleeks are worse than one, or The Fear of Two Gleeks?
Two Gleeks are deadlier than one.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. So we knew by the name that it was definitely a Zan and Jaina episode. So Zan and Jaina, we finally got to see them.
Yeah, and for those of you who did not live through any of the first Bush administration, this is like the Reagan. I didn't live through
this
any
is Reagan
of this,
years.
actually, yeah.
This is early Reagan.
Early Reagan. For those of you who do not remember who the Wonder Twins are, they wear purple. They look a little bit like the Osmonds, except they have a pet monkey. They have rings. They tap the rings together. When they tap the rings together, the sister becomes...
No, wait. They say Wonder Twin powers activate.
Oh, right.
The sister, Jaina, says shape of, and then some sort of animal.
Yeah, she gets to be like a tiger, and she's like mauling people.
Or in this one, a giant panda.
Yeah, and her brother Zan is always the form of some kind of frozen
any kind
liquid
of
water. Yeah, like he can't be gaseous water though, because I think he would die, right? Like he never becomes like form of cloud of mist.
Well, that's still solid matter. Just very tiny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he says shape of, and it's water. I think in this one that was baseball bat. It was an ice baseball bat.
Or it wasn't a hockey stick.
A hockey stick.
Yeah.
Sorry, a nice hockey stick. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was Green Lantern who first created a baseball bat to hit something, which then turned into a snake.
Yeah, you got a lot of super friends for your money by the pound in this episode.
Yeah, they all showed up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so the
including
episode.
2 of the monkey. So you got like a bonus one.
So Zan and Jaina. Oh well, Zan and Jaina are supposed to take care of the Hall of Justice that night, but Wonder Woman is the one that tells them that, and she doesn't tell both. She talks to Jaina. She said, Jaina, you and Zan will do this and that. And she's then giving her instructions of what to do with the Hall of Justice. And I contend that this passes the Bechdel test. Yeah, two women talking about having a substantive conversation, and the Super Friends that...
And it wasn't about a man, it was about a monkey.
Right. Well, not yet.
Or no, the monkey
comes
hadn't
later.
come in yet.
Yeah, it repeats. Wonder Woman says something again. She talks about the monkey. She provides the real wisdom.
But also eventually Zan and Jaina, because they're the only ones in the Super Friends who can appropriately kill the fake Gleek, kind of old Yeller style, right? Because it would seem really weird if just like Superman came down, even if it was a fake robotic Gleek, and just like punched the shit out of it. Like that would feel weird, right? So they had to hit it with the ice hockey stick, and you kind of wonder how long Zan and Jaina had been waiting together to spank the monkey. Watching this, because I can't remember how long they were on the Super Friends.
Not long enough.
By that point, I feel like there'd been enough build up.
Wait, so going back, why were there 2 Gleek? So while Zan and Jaina are asleep, how do you guard something when you're asleep? I don't know, but Gleek is tempted by some bananas, and he jumps outside of the window where there's a big pile of bananas, and while he's eating one, Giganta grabs him and takes him back to a cave where... What's his name? It's the smartest ape in the world. I don't remember his name.
I kept calling him Gorilla Grodd.
Gorilla Grodd.
Right, and he's like mostly a Flash villain.
Oh, okay.
That's why you've never heard of him, because nobody actually reads Flash comic books.
Well, there's the whole Flash TV series, but actually, Gorilla Grodd probably doesn't show up in the Flash TV series.
Well, maybe people are reading. I mean, that was unfair, but nobody I knew was like. I knew people that were Superman obsessed. I knew people that were Batman obsessed. I didn't know anybody who read the Flash as anything other than like supplemental material to the other things. But
when there's an episode in Superman issue 395, it ends with continued in Flash issue 20. Okay, it was probably several hundred. Because
there were a couple of those.
Because
the Flash was actually in Action Comics instead of having his own book for a while in the 80s. There was a point where Action Comics went weekly, and they're like big book. They're like 64 pages an issue. It goes to like this anthology for... Anyway, that's not interesting. What is interesting is the Super Friend.
By the way, just speaking of Flash and being supplemental, it was really sad in Crisis of Infinite Earth. So in issue 7, it's the big Superman carrying a dead Supergirl.
Right.
And because she sacrificed herself for something or other. I think she's fighting the big bad guy, the Anti-Monitor. In episode 8, that's the death of Flash. And the cover is just, I think, if I recall correctly, his crumpled up costume. And you see him, and that actually.
Oh yeah, because he runs
happens.
so fast that he like ages until he dies.
Yeah, he just kind of.
Which is like some classic Golden Age style bullshit.
Well, they had to get rid of one more major character before they created the single universe. Got rid of the multiverse. Yeah, so nobody paid attention to Flash dying. I don't know if they even noticed he was dead or wasn't showing up to meetings.
Yeah, those two comics, like the Supergirl one, I think is worth 3 times as much on the open market as the Flash one. You're totally. Yeah. So I think I have a copy of that issue, the Flash one.
Uh-huh.
And I was kind of shocked because there was a huge run on those back when I was going to comic book stores more often. So, like, they were getting insane prices for those Crisis on Infinite Earths book, and now the thing's worth like $5.
I have the entire all 12 issues. It's one of the few comic books I actually have in bag. I mean, I don't have the acid-free paper, but and they're just sitting there for years. And I remember I used to tell my mom, she's like, why are you spending all this money on this? It's an investment. So, I mean, I was reading them because I was enjoying it, but I was using the commercial aspect as an excuse. Spend a little money now to make more money later. Really, I just want to read these comic books. But I kept Crisis Infinite Earths, actually for personal reasons, because it was one of the few I said, there's a few that I really, really matter to me, and that was one of them. So they're worth $5, I think I paid. So I paid $9 or $10 for the entire series.
That's not bad.
No.
Yeah, it's definitely worth more than that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. 15.
Well, it's like 5 per issue.
Oh.
At least,
issues,
like the first
$60.
issue, depending on the condition, I mean that can go pretty high. I think the first issue and the Death of Supergirl issue. I'd have to look it up again though, because the comics market has shifted a lot since I was paying very close attention to it.
I should take a look and see. That's. I mean, I know they're not in near mint condition, but they're in very good condition. There's a set level of how you classify the condition of the comic book. So the top is mint, near mint, then very good.
Yeah, there's 2 systems. So there's like the number system that they use with the CGC, the Comic Rating Authority kind of people, where you send it in, they look at it with a microscope, put it in a slab, and then say like, this is a 9.0, this is a 5.3. Like the informal grading system, it's like mint, which any comic older than like 5 years old, you basically can't call it mint unless it came in a poly bag. Near mint minus, very good, I think is the next one.
Good and fair?
Good and then fair. And fair is like a beat to shit copy that you can still read, has all the pages, presumably has at least one staple in it. And then there's poor, which is for like, it's not even worth trying to buy or sell those for the most part, unless it's something incredibly rare,
unless
or
it's
you
Action
want to use it for
Comics
collage,
number 1.
Whatever. Yeah.
Action Comics number 1 in poor is still gonna. You still want that.
A lot of money. Yeah. Well, sometimes you find, because newsstands, they would return unsold copies, and when they returned unsold copies of things, to make sure that they weren't just trying to resell them, they'd have to pull the covers off of them. So you will find lots of like Amazing Spider-Man, the first 10, 15 issues, missing the covers.
Oh, okay.
That's probably the cheapest way to get those comics in the original state. Not that anyone really needs. No one needs to spend $800 on a Spider-Man comic. There's no good reason to do that.
Especially because you can watch the movie.
Right. And you can get, like, they've been reprinted 1,000,000 times.
We've seen the origin episode, about 10 different versions of it. And
at least 10. Yeah. Oh my God.
Which is what? Spider-Man number 1?
Amazing Fantasy number 15.
Is that his first appearance?
That's the first appearance and origin of Spider-Man.
Okay.
Because Amazing Fantasy, for the 14 issues before that, it was a monster comic book. It was just like Jack Kirby drew weird rock monster whatever things, and then Stan Lee would fill in the words afterward. And then, for the 15th issue, right before they got canceled, they had Steve Ditko and Stan Lee. And I think Jack Kirby drew the cover. So the cover of Amazing Fantasy number 15 is actually by Jack Kirby, not Steve Ditko. I think there was even a second story in the comic book, like a short monster thing, because it's only a 15-page story, but that's where the, like, with great power comes great responsibility, Uncle Ben, the wrestling stuff, that's where that all comes from is that.
Okay. Do you think they'd intended that as a new character and that was introducing him? Or
yeah.
Okay. It wasn't just
yeah,
the one.
because they started a regular series pretty soon after that, and they were because like superhero comics had been completely out in the market for like 15 years, and they'd had this big hit with Fantastic Four #1. I think Spider-Man was one of the earlier additions to that, like because they came out with the Thor comics, they came out with early X-Men, the Avengers. They brought back Captain America from being frozen in an iceberg.
You mean Chris Evans?
Right.
Chris Evans was frozen in an iceberg. First brought out in early '60s, rethought, brought back out again in the 2000s.
There's this great comic called Sergio Aragonis Destroys the guy from Mad Magazine.
And Gru.
And it's called Sergio Aragonis Destroys or Massacres the Marvel Universe. And I used to have a copy, if I still have a physical copy of it. Yeah, like Captain America gets so sick of the Avengers, he's like, I'm going back to my iceberg until this doesn't suck again.
Yeah, so Super Friends. Back at the Hall of Justice, the Gleek was kidnapped by the asleep
More
Gleek.
Martians.
No, this was Giganta and
Right,
Gorilla
the
Grodd.
gorilla, yeah.
And they have a Gleek android. And that Gleek android has beams coming out of his eyes that'll send things, I don't know, does it vaporize them or send them somewhere else? I didn't quite understand. Like into another dimension? Or in any case, he gets rid of them.
They go up Mighty Mouse's nose. Sensors come.
Maybe it's the Phantom Zone.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, Phantom Zone's everywhere. Phantom Zone surrounds us. Anyways, they send an android Gleek to go infiltrate the Hall of Justice. So he goes back. Zan and Jane are looking for him because he's been out all night. Starts acting malevolent very quickly. He locks them up in metal bars, and they can't reach each other and activate their Wonder-Twin powers. Goes into the Hall of Justice, which for some reason, everyone, I think it's like 15 members, all show up for a meeting. They never do that. And then
The superintendents, they close the schools so that they could get all of them in for one meeting.
While Zan and Jaina are trapped on the roof, Gleek jumps in and he starts vaporizing the Justice League one by one, very quickly. Zan and Jaina are finally able to, they stretch and they stretch and they stretch, and finally they're able to activate their Wonder-Twin powers. They go down and somehow they somehow defeat. They start hitting Android Gleek, and then out of nowhere, Wonder Woman pops out and Green Lantern pops out, and they help defeat the Android Gleek, Gorilla Grodd, and Giganta. It turns out that they knew something was going to happen, so they created android versions of themselves. So just by coincidence, there was an Android Gleek evil plan and an Android Super Friends safety plan.
I'm kind of surprised nobody's ever taken the Android double thing to its logical endpoint, right? like a series. I mean, I guess Battlestar Galactica sort of did this, but a universe where the technology gets cheap enough that all wars pretty much are fought between sets of people's cybernetic doubles, and so everybody's just sort of killing everybody left and right, except they can never find the actual people.
Is that what happens in... No, I'm sorry, in Ender's Game. I'm getting it totally confused.
Yeah.
That's
right.
I don't want to spoil it.
Well, I guess
spoil all those movies,
Blade Runner, if everybody was a replicant. Except for the replicants were sort of doubles you could hire to live out parts of your life that were dangerous.
So you could sit back
and they were cheap enough where people could just sort of circumvent the law by hiring.
So you could send them to go to work or go to jail for you?
Like the model in my head I'm thinking of right now is the Pet Hitler sketch from Mr. Show.
I haven't seen it.
Basically an assistant who's actually you but is actually an android. Again, Microsoft, give us money.
Is that directed at me?
No, we were talking about...
Do you want it to be directed?
The word.
Well, yeah, but I also said android made out of metallic parts for dangerous mission.
So that was the inimitable Elizabeth, the podcast.
She's making another sandwich. If you listen really carefully, you can hear it.
So that's the end of the episode.
We might be at the... Yeah, I think this is the end of... So that's been a nominee.
Well, just to recap, there's only one... If you're going to watch Frogs, don't. And if you really must... Only watch 5 minutes.
And skip to 45 minutes in if you just need, like, the money shots, but also be forewarned that they don't really qualify. Only 2 of them actually qualify as, like, good horror movie money shots.
And the lesson of Super Friends, I think, is don't seek out Wonder Twin episodes.
And if you don't, or if you're gonna hit your pet monkey, you better be really sure that it's a robotic replica of your pet monkey, because it will be a lot more disturbing when his disconnected viscera fall into a janitor's garbage can. Anyways.
Which would be horrible. Except that, Gleek is kind of annoying.
He is kind of annoying, but then the frogs would come to avenge him.
Oh,
or
okay.
PETA, or somebody.
Okay, so
do PETA monitor the animated shows, or just the live action ones?
Oh, I think just the representation of the relationship between animals and humans, or the treatment of animals. I think that's
I guess that's an errata one.
Yeah, I got to go look that up, because God can only imagine what all the things that I just said that were incorrect. So
So that's the show. Hit like, hit subscribe, comment. I don't know if you can do any of those things.
You can comment in one place.
There's the whole internet. You can figure out how to do that shit. We don't need to tell you.
I think. Well, I'll check. I think if you go to anominy.com, ANOMINY.com, as opposed to, there's several ways you could have gotten to this, but I think if you go there, there's a comment option. There might also be one on Spotify, and they're separate. If you comment anywhere, we'll look at it. And if you don't, I still am going to keep checking. So.
Yeah, and things we're currently looking for in our comment section: pictures of Morgan Freeman in a cowboy hat. What was the other one you wanted, Ron?
Was the name of something? No. The cowboy hat? Let's see, the cowboy hat. I probably did a notch for it so that I'll remember. Yeah, I'll when I listen back to this.
We'll remember it.
Yeah, I'll tweet it out.
Anyway, see you next week.
See ya.